What if a college didn't wait until junior year to help your child build real career skills? In my conversation with Champlain College President Alex Hernandez, we're talking about how their upside down curriculum helps students start in their major right away freshman year. Those kids are getting real world experience early, and they're building confidence that comes from actually doing the work, not just learning about it in a classroom. This episode, though, it's not just for families considering Champlain. It's for any family who wants to make smart college choices that lead to strong career outcomes for their young person in today's quickly evolving and often hard to crack open job market. We're talking about internships, flexibility, general education, and what families should look for if they want a college experience that truly prepares their student for what comes next. So let's go ahead and dive into my conversation with Alex Hernandez. So President Hernandez, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So you are leading Champlain College in Vermont. Give us just a quick little soundbite to introduce yourself and the university.
Yeah, Champlain College is a career-focused college in Burlington, Vermont, and we think a lot about how do we get students to hit the ground running when they graduate, which is, shouldn't be a unique thing in higher education, but as you've probably experienced, it doesn't always happen that way. And we've just been really innovative over time, the way we think about preparing students. We're kind of different by design and excited to talk about that this morning.
I love that. So you guys, for a long time, you've had this upside down curriculum is what you call it. That's the right term for it, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And so let's talk about, because that's kind of how I think about as I'm working with, even the high school students. We work with 15 to 25-year-olds, very career focused. But when I really think about even the high schoolers, I think about like inverting the process of finding the right college, right? I go, okay, career, majors, college next, which is the opposite of what a lot of people do, which again, maybe shouldn't be that unique, but I feel like it is. So the upside down curriculum is kind of like that as well, right? Can you explain like what that means?
Yeah, the upside down curriculum very practically means the moment you set foot on our campus, you start courses in a career-focused major. And there's a few benefits of that. First is you get to pursue your passions right away. Most colleges are structured where you take 2 years of intro to everything, and you've enrolled in college because you're probably interested in a major, but then they say, okay, you need to wait till your junior year. And that's okay for some students, but a lot of students, they want to dive in with what they're interested in. And the benefit of that is our students can get a really meaningful summer internship the summer after their freshman year, which again, most colleges will say, don't worry about an internship till the summer after your junior year. And so by the time our students graduate, because they've started early with their passions, they're starting to have experiences. You might have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 career-focused experiences. We have an alum named Shannon, and she was really passionate about games, and she came in and she just started doing projects, and she did internships, and she had 6 internships by the time she graduated. And so she just left Champlain in a very different place than a lot of college graduates, where she had done things and she had networks, and her life launched in a very different way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had Jeff Salingo on the podcast recently, and the number one thing that came out of his research for Dream School, his book, was parents want a career outcome for their kiddos. Yeah. Besides the fact, you and I are both parents of similar aged kids. We just want our kids to be happy ultimately, right? But if we're investing in college, an expectation of there's a career outcome on the other side. And, right now it's tough out there for new graduates. So I would have to think that when the real world experiences are counting more than ever, I think that's a change.
That's right. That's right.
Your students are getting more of that, right?
Absolutely. So that's really the premise of the upside down curriculum, to unlock these experiences very early in your career. And we've been doing a lot of work to transform our programs in our college for the world that our students are facing today. And one of the things we're talking about is we want experience to be included in a Champlain college education. And that means not just real world experiences in the classroom, and I'm happy to talk about
Mhm.
some of those, but also internships, co-ops where you can be working full time. And so basically over the course of these years, you're collecting these experiences that are just as important part of an education as some of the traditional academic work that we traditionally associate with higher education.
You know, and it's so true what you said about a lot of universities, colleges are telling young people like, don't worry about the internships. It's going to be hard to land one until you're heading at least into your junior year, maybe into your senior year. And as I'm thinking about it, it's like, well, yeah, if you start out in all the pre-work and all your gen ed requirements, then you don't really have skills that employers probably want. Because, I mean, it's got to be a win-win on these internships. They got to get something out of it as well. So if you're starting right in your major, then you actually are probably gaining some skills that would make somebody want to hire a rising sophomore into an internship.
Absolutely. And a really clear example of that, we have really great cybersecurity program.
Mhm.
And the very first semester, again, in our upside down curriculum, you're not just reading and thinking about cybersecurity, you're going into a security operations center environment and
Mm.
you're actually doing things in cybersecurity. And so the act of doing, the act of experience, I mean, we're both parents. Your kids come out with confidence in a different way.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
didn't learn something in theory, but I've actually been able to perform it in practice. There's a level of confidence that comes with it. There's a level of accountability.
yeah.
Students just kind of treat it a little bit differently. And so when you kind of pair that together with the academic skills and the professional skills, we think that creates a very different education that, you're right, is really important, especially today. There's a lot of changes going on in the world right now that's putting pressure on new graduates, and that labor market's changing, that job market's changing. And so we're trying to be really thoughtful about how do you prepare them not just with the diploma, but the actual
Mhm.
skills they're going to need to thrive.
I was just reading a study and it was talking about how employers a few years ago, their main focus, their first focus was what was your GPA, right? So,
Yeah.
did you have a strong GPA, which shows persistence and intellect, and you can do hard things and you can achieve, and you've book learned, right?
Yeah.
And now GPA is secondary to real
Mm.
skills. And so that completely resonates with. I was literally reading the article on LinkedIn this morning before we
Interesting.
got on. Yeah, I know. I'm like, I wasn't seeking anything out. It just was in my feed because this is the hot topic. So I have some questions though about, and I know our listeners, especially the parents or students, would
Yeah.
want to hear about like, how does this work then? I love that you're getting right into your major because kids often get frustrated by all of the
Yeah.
pre-work, right? So I think you're removing some friction there, which is really nice. But are they still having to take like the same number of credit hours? Is it still a 4-year experience? How do you handle gen ed requirements like
Yeah.
composition and things like that?
Absolutely. So the upside down curriculum isn't just about starting your major early, but we've completely rethought the way that we approach general education. And so, a couple of the features of general education, one is we have a studio model for 4 years. And what that means is students work on real world projects with employers, with organizations. They're working across majors, they're connecting different disciplines. So, yeah, as an example, students are doing a project with a maritime museum. They're creating a virtual reality environment for shipwreck for the upcoming centennial. And
So
you have
cool.
students from different majors, and they're connecting technology and they're connecting history and user interface design and into a real practical thing that's going to show up in the community. And this studio model is designed to teach teamwork, collaboration, communication, against all those things that show up very prominently in when you go out and interview a job or you go into your first roles. And these aren't one-off experiences. The studio model is a 4-year experience for our students. So that's one way we think about general education differently. We also have community connections feature of our general education where students really kind of, again, connect disciplines. They think about local, national to global. So as an example, our students work on a project with the apiary, and they think about the science, they think about the history of science, they teach it to elementary school kids. There's aspects of elementary education. And again, we're trying to put students in situations where they're taking different disciplines, bringing them together in new ways for them that just really prepares them for the world today. And as we look of what's going on in the workforce and what's going on with AI, there's a real premium on being able to connect the dots between different fields. And so that's just a really good example of how we approach general education differently, which is different from survey, check the box on a bunch of different subjects.
Right. So this interdisciplinary approach. So basically, what somebody else might be doing at a different university or college that would be like Comp 101, for lack of a better word, is those skills and requirements are going to be embedded into these studio experiences. So they're still going to become good writers or get the
That's right.
skills, but they're not getting a Comp
have
101 grade.
we still have a Comp 101 class. We still have a
Okay.
quantitative skills class, but the vast majority of that 2 years worth of general education credits is really on developing these interdisciplinary approaches. As an example, one of the first Gen Ed courses our students take is called Inquiry to Action. And we basically ask you, what are your passions and what are the things that you need to know in the world to fully explore your passions? And so again, it's just a very different approach to general education.
So if they start in a major, because I love saying, like, let's begin with the end in mind, right? Even when you're choosing a college, like for the students that we're serving who are in high school that are going to go on a college path or college bound, I'm like, be very thoughtful and informed about what college or university you choose to go to, rooted in this end goal that we have out here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm met all the time with, well, they're too young to know. I'm like, they can learn a lot. We can expect more of them to be able to make connections and make good decisions. But if they come in a particular major, can we talk about like what flexibility is there?
Absolutely.
How easy is it to switch your major or explore something new? Like, let's talk about flexibility because that's what parents will want to know.
Yeah, there's huge maximum flexibility in the way we approach our programs. So we think it's actually really important that students try something, even if it's not where they eventually land, because rather than wait for 2 years and find out, oh, junior, I actually don't like what I thought I liked for 2 years.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can redirect yourself to something else that may be more interesting to you. So, we have students who try a few things, and our curriculum's really structured like Lego blocks. So you can find ways to mix and match your interests together. So there's no requirement that you need to know exactly what you want to do. We just want you to start pursuing something that you think is interesting so you can learn from that. The other thing we've done is we've created what we call the Flex 30. There's a whole year's worth of credits that students can use to really drive value in their degree. And so as an example, a lot of people right now are talking about co-ops where you can earn and learn at the same time, meaning that you can work full-time while you're in college. Now, most colleges and universities say that's really not, we're going to put you on part-time status. Like we're going to delay your graduation so you can go to a co-op. As part of the Flex 30, you could do 2 co-ops at Champlain and still graduate on time. So you have the flexibility.
You're still graduating in 4 years. Wow.
You could still graduate in 4 years. You could do an online graduate certificate during that time. You could do a co-op, transfer in 15 credits and graduate 3.5 years. So we're trying to create the flexibility. So once students really see, hey, this is where I'm headed, how do I put these experiences together that maximize my time in college and drive the most value for myself and allow me to take my passions further and faster? So we've really tried to create that flexibility for
Hmm.
students and their families, and but kind of with enough structure that once students are on the track of what they're passionate about, there's all these incredible opportunities. Whether you want to do animation or business or social work, I mean, the philosophy is the same underneath each one of these
Right.
programs.
Well, I think you hit on something there that I think is really important. And earlier we talked about you mentioned like confidence, right? So
Yeah,
your graduates are coming out with more confidence because it's scary what these kids are up against the world. Like the 20
yeah,
something era is just it's hard, right? And
yeah,
they're figuring a lot out, not just about work and launching their lives, but how to adult, all of it.
yeah, right.
And it's a lot. And so as they get experience, they grow in their confidence. And but what I've seen is, and you just hit this with like there is structure. While it's flexible,
Yeah,
there's some structure to it because what really serves to overwhelm kids in figuring out the career connection and their confidence in that path is when they don't have the structured framework of the next step. And it sounds
right.
like what I love is I'm hearing like you guys allow the flexibility, but yet you give the pathway and the structure to it so that it's not like, oh, it's flexible, go figure it out on your own.
That's right. It's the structure's there so that when you're in it, you're getting these experiences, you're making this progress. But if you're at a point where I'm a game design major and I'm really interested in environmental sustainability, you've got all the flexibility in the world to go chase that passion. And
Yeah,
we actually think that's really, really important because a lot of students come in and they'll say, this is a major I need to take because it's the responsible choice, but it's not really my interest. And what we see is that there's this hidden job market out there where, our student who was really interested in game design and environmental sustainability, he ended up getting offered an internship in Thailand to go work for an aquaculture company. And
wow.
he was like, "Why are you
Yeah,
calling me? I'm a game design major." And they're like, "Well, we want to create a virtual world, a virtual simulation of our operation." That aquaculture company didn't know until they saw him that they needed him. He
yeah,
didn't know that this intersection of his passions existed. And now it opened up this whole new area of opportunity for him
right.
connecting the environment to technology. And so that's what we mean by the hidden job market. And we find those opportunities pop up over and over again the more we let students explore different aspects of their interests.
So you've talked a lot about, and this is what comes to mind. So my youngest are twins, and you're a dad of
Yeah,
twins as well. We talked about that before we got started. Unique scenario there, parenting for both of us. And my daughter, my girl twin, graduated from University of Cincinnati, who's the founder of Co-op. So
yes, yeah,
huge. I mean, my dad, who's 81, did co-ops back in the 60s. So I'm a huge
that's
fan
amazing.
of
Yeah,
internships and co-ops, right? Sometimes though, I see students at schools that are known for co-ops, like a Cincinnati, Drexel, Northeastern, Kettering College. Would be a handful, and we'll add you guys to the list. But sometimes the kids, while the school is structured to offer or require a co-op, and you're
yeah,
right, most of those extend to you're going to have a 5 year path instead of four. Doesn't mean you're paying for 5 years of college. You're paying for four
yeah,
at those universities, but it's more time in school, which kids often
right.
are anxious to get out into the real world. And some of them are like, I could stay in school forever. But we know those types of personalities. But what I've seen is some kids struggle to make the employer connections. Like I've seen universities and colleges across the spectrum, some support the connection to the employers really well. So the kid's not overwhelmed with finding the opportunity. And some say, well, you're going to go get these co ops, but it's kind of the Wild West. How are you going to go out? Where are you going to find your
Yeah,
opportunity? So I'm super curious as to because obviously I'm a fan of the schools that help facilitate the connection because it's hard as a 19 or 20 or 21-year-old to do that on your own. How do you guys support like this employer embedded piece and finding the co-ops and connecting with the employers because that can be
absolutely.
really hard.
So we're really committed to the idea that experience should be included in a college education. And so we've created what we call the Champlain Exchange. which is
Hmm.
a one-stop shop that connects students with leading employers through co-ops,
Okay.
internships, upskilling, career-focused projects. And we actually have to do that because this isn't just about go out off campus to get an internship or go do a co-op. Our model only works, as you've seen, whether it's our studios, whether it's our majors, when we're deeply connected with employers in our classrooms. So in order to keep those connections, in order to keep those relationships, we're building this Champlain exchange to create all those experiences across the board for our students.
And are those in this Champlain exchange of employers, like you just referenced the student who went to Thailand, right, to
Yeah,
for his experience.
yeah.
Are those all local employers? Are they global? Are they US employers? Like what makes up the Champlain exchange?
Yeah, it's it's all of the above. It's very heavily Vermont because
Okay.
one of the best things you can do for an experience is you bring people in person on
Yeah.
campus to interact, and that's really amazing. And this idea of helping students bring their ideas to life, Vermont's an important part of that because this is a state that came up with Ben and Jerry's that
Yeah.
Burton came out of. I mean, it's been this incredibly innovative place. And so as students are going through their own journeys of how do we, take our passions and move them forward, this is the environment. We have a partnership with a technology or with a startup accelerator called Hula, which works with 60
Mm.
to 80 companies at any given time. And so
Oh,
our students come to Vermont and they become part of that community. Now, of course, we also use the Champlain Exchange to develop our relationships in Boston, in Pittsburgh,
okay.
and
Yeah.
on the
Not
West
that
Coast, and all
far.
those
Right.
other things. But it's a combination of having the breadth of opportunities, but also, what is that community? What is that local set of supports that are supporting these really in-person experiences for our students? Because a big reason why we think you come to Vermont is because of this innovation community that's been built here.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, now you have me hungry thinking ice cream. Jerry's. Thanks a lot, Alex. So, you guys, how many students go to Champlain? Is it just a,
We have about 1,500, and then we have a couple thousand online.
okay. So it's a small college and it's going to
Yeah.
be perfect fit for a lot of students who want that small college experience with that's focused on career outcomes. If we have a listener here who's like, my kid's looking for rah, university, research university, large school, like there's something for everybody as far as what colleges have
Absolutely.
to offer. But I agree with you that we really are best supporting our students when we're thinking career first, when we're thinking career development across all 4 years. So I'm curious if we have a listener who's like, yeah, that's way too small for my kid, or Vermont, we live in California. No way am I sending my kid all the way across the United States. There's lots of different ways of thinking about this. But how would you encourage, you're a parent, like how would you encourage
Yeah.
another parent who's supporting a high school student or an early college student to evaluate other college options that, might be a better fit for them as far as like if they want, a campus of 30,000 students or whatever,
Yeah.
to still evaluate if a school's truly integrating career development, what should
Yeah.
they be asking themselves? And asking of the colleges, I guess, when they're getting on campus and doing visits or emailing or whatever that looks like.
First of all, ask yourself, what are students doing when they graduate? When I first got introduced to Champlain, I met one of the top CEOs in the area, and he said, I had 900 employees, 300 of Champlain grads. They're my best employees.
Mm.
And we have a employer partner who we have such a strong relationship, New Harbor Security. They actually opened a office on our campus next to our Leahy Center of Cybersecurity because at one point half of their grads were half of their employees were Champlain
Yeah.
graduates. And so you're looking for evidence of kind of these really strong indicators of success. And what you'll see is most colleges, they'll report these really high employment rates. But then where you need to look at as a parent is, well, what percent of the class did they survey? And oftentimes it's, well, 90%, we surveyed 25%, or we surveyed 35%. Our students have 90% career success within 6 months of graduation, but we survey over 80% of our students. So you're getting actually a
Right.
full view so I think that's one thing. But secondly, I think it's just, what's the approach that you want? And I think, first of all, there's a great college for everyone. So
Right.
let's be clear about that. There's a sense of, college you can just check a box and we'll do what the way college has always done, and we'll get kind of those outcomes. But if you're thinking about how do you make the most of your 4 years,
Yeah.
and how do you start, how do you dive into your interests early? How do you engage early? How do you develop these human skills in a digital age that are going to be really, really important? We're just offering a different type of education. We're offering a different type of model that's designed to support students in this moment during a period of rapid change. And we think actually higher education needs to look different. And so, I think that's the exciting thing for parents and families who see, wow, it is possible for my student to be ready when they graduate. And I say, you don't have to be ready when you get here, but when you leave, you're going to be ready.
Yeah.
And we've designed a very different type of college to make that possible.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like I need to visit Vermont and come on campus and take a look. As you're talking about that, and I'm thinking about supporting, obviously you can't enroll, even all of our listeners, but how to think differently. A family could go do, I don't know, a virtual Champlain visit and take good notes to think about, then critically apply how you guys are doing virtual visits or in-person visits. Even if they go like, Champlain's too small for me, or we're not going to Vermont. But even just looking at how you guys talk about these things will help a family develop a list of like what I can then take and go look at another school and assess this career development aspect, regardless of what else you want the college or university experience to look like.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, the job market's changing a lot right now, and it's going to even change more than we
Mhm.
can even imagine. And so you're really looking for an institution that's going to be really nimble, that's going to be really thoughtful, that is going to think about those skills that are going to matter. And that's going to, some skills are really timeless, and other skills, higher education hasn't really been good at paying attention to, like some of these human skills that are really
Right.
valued in the workplace, but often don't get much attention in an academic environment. Like, how do you communicate? How do you work in teams? My wife is a CEO, and she was interviewing some Champlain students for an internship, and she turned to me. She said, every one of them could talk about what it meant to work in teams in some really compelling ways, and they all had experience looking at data. And so it was just really interesting how these kind of themes popped up, because you have a different kind of college preparing students in different ways. And while the regardless of the size of the college or the size of the state, when you're an experience-based institute, like the world is your classroom, right?
Yes.
And so our students are all over Burlington, they're all over Vermont, they're all over the Northeast, they're all over the country. As I said, you through our Freeman Fellowships, they're going to Asian cities to do not to study abroad, but to do internships abroad.
Right. Big difference
And
there.
so,
Because I talked to a lot of
exactly.
study abroad kids. I was talking to a kid who graduated from an Ivy who had a spectacular study abroad experience. And and when we got real, because he was career confused coming out of
Yeah.
college, right? Had zero idea what he was aiming for. And I'm like, what were you thinking about while you're in there? And it was just about having a good experience. And the study abroad was, well, I got my classes down to like 2 days a week. And then I traveled all over Europe the rest of the time. And while that's a
Yeah.
fantastic experience, it's almost a year later, and he's living at his parents' house, unemployed right now.
Right. And I mean, I'll contrast that as I think about putting my parent hat on. We had a student a couple of years ago who transferred into Champlain, and she was from the Northeast, and she said, my dream is to work in Japan in a creative field. And lots of students have those aspirations, but not always, the world kind of, sometimes puts people on a different path. And she came in our upside down curriculum and she dove into her major and she took advantage of this Freeman Fellowship in Japan. And she built things with her classmates and she just kept putting stuff out in the world. And one of her games got recognized by a magazine. And 6 months after they graduate, she said, actually, my dream just came true. I just got a job in Japan working in a creative field. And so these are, as a parent, it's okay to expect and to go to an institute that helps your students further their dreams and aspirations.
Yeah.
And it's okay to hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay to dream. It's okay to bring your ideas to life.
My favorite part of what you've said today is when you said, especially for kids that are like, or the parents are like, well, they can't know what they want to do. It's okay. Just come and start doing something, right?
Yes.
It's going to be flexible. Career development, I believe, is lifelong. We're not asking these kids to make a forever decision, but like just do something because really traction comes from taking action instead of just absorbing more data and information. Information is not going to create the direction. It's actually action that does. And you guys are clearly very action oriented up there in Champlain.
Absolutely. Go out and try something. Don't just read about it. Go out and do it.
Love it.
Don't just watch the outside world. Go out in the outside world. That's what we mean by experience included in Champlain College education.
I love it. Alex, thank you so much for taking time. I think that not only are we celebrating the great things that you guys are doing, you're innovative. Like you said, workplace is changing rapidly and higher ed needs to continue to evolve and change rapidly because a lot of schools are getting left behind. You guys are a fantastic model. I celebrate that. And thank you for helping our parents just think of different ways to think about this experience and how to evaluate what their options are.
Well, thank you for supporting our families. We all need it as parents and really grateful that you had me on the show.
Thanks, Alex.